All right. They have everything, don't you? Just, let's see. So this is budget workshop. It's Monday, September the 22nd, 6 p.m. So tonight we have a guest, our financial analyst, Mike Babani, who's going to share with us some information about TIFs, as well as some discussion about our city budget, overview of the 100 and the 425 funds, CIP funds. So with that, do a roll call.
Mayor Gorst,
Here.
Councilor Spring,
Here.
Councilor Reisdorfer is not present, Councilor Pendergrass.
Here.
Councilor Phillips.
Here.
All right, so we're gonna
Jason, if you want to introduce Mike or
Yeah.
take off.
I'll let Mike kind of introduce himself, but we're gonna go through this. Mike's gonna talk a little bit about TIF. We had a business pop up that was interested in TIF. I thought this was a good time to start talking about it, kind of get into this and get everybody's thoughts. And this was just a recent development really in the last few weeks. They've been slowly talking about what they'd like and what's possible. So we've put together this timeline here to present. And we'll be able to put this up on the screen here shortly. But like I said, this is to really get council's kind of thoughts and ideas. And I know it's been a while since we've had a TIF in Orinoco. And then after that, we've got time to kind of go over and talk about budget. We'll have our budget workshop tomorrow or Wednesday before the council meeting, the special council meeting. But this kind of go over your time to go over, ask any questions for Mike, budget related. We'll kind of run through some of the numbers and things like that, and we'll kind of be open for just discussion. So with that, like there's still the two online here. Just make sure, wait for anybody. I'm gonna go ahead and switch us to that. Oh, that works. I know we are going to switch our screen now. So we can actually see that. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, take it away.
You bet. Has anybody here not met me before? Okay. I'll give
I
you,
had just seen you when you did the tip a couple years ago when you
Okay.
were working on doing that, but I think that was,
H. Robinson.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, well, no, that was after that. Like 2 years ago, I think you kind of did a little bit
Little bit
of
of
it.
training or something?
Yeah, was that about 2 years ago? I'm just trying to think of when that.
About a year or so.
The one 2024.
Yeah, it was last year.
Was it last year?
Was that just for the city of Orinoco or was I doing like a,
It might have been at SEMLM.
got it,
You
got it.
did
Okay.
have some tax abatement and TIF presentation.
All right, well, I'll make just the 2-second view of who I am. I was a city administrator in Spring Valley back in the 90s for about 5 years. My consultant hired me on. I've been with him ever since. So it's 25 years now. I've been working as a consultant with the same firm. I'm a registered municipal advisor with the SEC, and basically, we help cities with financing projects, economic development projects, you name it, technical assistance mostly. Okay, so the primary reason I'm here is to answer your questions about budget, because I know you're gonna have your work session on Wednesday. But what happened was, we've had a company come forward asking about the use of tax increment financing. And they seemed a little bit gung-ho to get started. We had a number of questions for them. I wasn't even sure their project was gonna qualify for the use of that program. But subsequent to our initial discussion with them, they had a chat with Taft Law, who has served as the city's bond counsel for many, many years. You've probably never met them, probably never will. They usually tend to use municipal advisors as their face and their voice, even though we don't work for them. They sort of lean on us. But basically they came to the conclusion that the project does qualify. And the reason I mentioned about qualification is because the type of TIF district we would use in this instance is an economic development TIF district, which is exactly the same one that we use for CH Robinson. While tax increment financing is calculated the same way, there's multiple types of TIF districts. It's calculated the same for each, but you have to identify the one that you're gonna use, and then you have to abide by the rules. An economic development TIF is limited to manufacturing and industrial warehousing and distribution. At least 85% of the area of the building has to be for those purposes. And so the business, can we even say in public, are they okay to be public? They're making.
Yeah,
it
it's
public,
kind of,
okay.
yeah.
Fire Safety USA is the company. So basically, the question was, well, is this more of a repair shop than it is manufacturing? But fact is fire trucks go in one condition, stuff is added to those trucks, they go out the door in a different condition, which meets the basic standard for manufacturing, taking a product, changing it and shipping it back out. So because the city's bond council was okay with it, I'm okay with it, you should be okay with it, that they qualify. So what is tax increment financing? Don't be impressed by the name of it. All we're talking about is using property taxes. It's just a different way of using property taxes. So in a normal course of business, somebody comes along, I want to build a new home, I want to build a new business, I want to build a new whatever. If I build that structure this year in 2025, my taxes won't go up this year. And in fact, in Minnesota, my taxes won't go up next year in 26 either. If I build it in 25, I won't see an increase in my taxes due to the new value until 2027. And so normally what happens is if we build in 25 is in 2027, the city of Orinoco would have a little extra tax base, meaning if you kept your levy exactly the same from one year to the next, there's a new party in town to help pay for that, meaning everybody else's taxes might go down a little bit. They're picking up some of the burden. But what tax increment financing does is isolate those new taxes, and instead of using them and making them available for your tax base, they're captured and kind of put on a shelf. The dollars that are generated as a result of that are then redirected to the city, who uses it to funnel into the project itself. So instead of using those new tax dollars for snow plowing and police protection and payroll and all the things you normally use taxes for, you're using it to pay project costs. And the reason you would do that is because the company is making the claim, we won't do this project without the assistance. We can't or we won't, doesn't matter. Without the use of, so the reason cities use tax increment financing is because when the TIF district goes away, when the contract is satisfied, at the end of it, you get the tax base that we just discussed that you otherwise would not have had, right? So you could say, no, thank you. And let's say there's a piece of bare ground somewhere and that's where they're gonna go. You could say, no, thank you, and you're gonna have bare ground. Or you could say, yeah, we'll do TIF. And for the next several years, you're not gonna benefit from the tax base of that, but you don't lose anything either. But the benefit is that you do have a gain. It's just down the road.
It's usually about 10 years, right?
This type of TIF district is 9 collections.
That's about 10 years by the time you look at it on what's going on, which is where we're at with the Robinson, that we
It was
still have
exactly the
not, we
same.
still haven't gotten any of that benefit, okay, of what's going on. So the city loses for 10 years, basically.
Well, you don't lose anything.
The city does not make
You don't
the tax
gain
base
anything.
for 10 years.
Right, you don't get anything. But the counter argument, and you don't have to agree with it, but the counter argument is that if you didn't do that TIF district, C.H. Robinson wouldn't have built here, they would have built somewhere else.
But there's also other opportunities for other people to come in and take that land as well and put their own in there too. So that's not really, once you lose for good. No, it just becomes open for somebody else, another business.
Right, but that, if you've got one in the hand, it's worth two in the bush, right? So. Now, C.H. Robinson, just as an example, is more of I'd call it more of a data center than anything else. But the reason they were able to qualify for manufacturing is because of the warehousing and distribution. Their primary purpose was to serve, I don't know what you call it. Basically, they're handling they're sending the trucks out to deliver product everywhere, and this thing helps run all that, the logistics of it.
Let me understand this then, Mike. If the city doesn't lose anything,
Yeah.
why did the city have to write a check for 9 years?
Okay,
They had to write a check for $40,000.
where they build their property, their tax statement is still gonna, in the example I gave you, like I built something this year, in 2027, my tax statement as the private owner of that, is still gonna go up. I'm gonna pay full price on my tax statement. It's just that when I pay my tax statement, when the county, because you pay the county your taxes, and they usually distribute the city share and the county share and the school share, and that's why every 6 months you get your tax settlement from the county for your share of those taxes. But in a TIF district, what they do is they capture not only just the new city taxes, they capture all the new county taxes and a little bit of the school taxes. And that's all sent to the city. And then the city can use that money. Well, it might be in the same bank, might be in the same bank accounts. In your internal accounting software, you have a separate fund just for C.H. Robinson. So when that money goes in, it goes in there, and then you write a check each year to reimburse them for some of the costs that they had fronted.
For the costs that they paid to the county and to the school district.
Right, we're taking a portion of their new taxes that they're paying. That's being sent back to the city, and then we're cutting checks for up to 9 years. Once it comes in, because if nothing comes in, we pay nothing. But if it is coming in, we agreed to the terms of the contract to send it back to them for 9 years to reimburse them for their original project costs until that TIF district is over.
Is my understanding too with the TIF. It goes along with the number of people that are supposedly employed at that location as well, when you originally filed for that, is that correct?
It can be, it's not necessarily all deals.
I understand that's what it was with Robinsons, and those people never showed up. So in reality, that TIF should never be a thing that's happening right now because they haven't held up to that same.
The deal with them, I don't have that in front of me, but they weren't required to create very many jobs at all. Because there's not very labor intensive what they do.
But it was like 13 or something
Was
like
it that
that.
much?
It was
Yeah.
5 or 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was single
5 or
digits, I
7.
thought.
And they chose Orinoco because of the labor market from Rochester. And a couple of years after we got into the TIF, then that's when they came back to the city and said, hey, our site description or site changed, so we're not gonna hire those people. We've changed our operations, and so that's when they came back with one person, 24/7, but it's one
And did the
person,
council approve that?
and council approved that.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, there you go. But generally speaking, if the package is worth $150,000 or more, which C.H. Robinson definitely was. And Fire Safety USA, if it happens, will also. The law requires us to address job creation and wage goals. But we can set that wherever we want. So it's a negotiation. And so if they don't meet the goals, they're supposed to repay the assistance plus interest to the extent, prorated to the extent that they met the goals. But if council approved a lower number.
It's the first I've heard of that a council approved that lower number. I wasn't aware of that. Because we sure didn't with council in the time I was with it.
That probably had to happen long before we got it.
Yeah.
So, the thing about property taxes is, it's collected over time. But if I'm gonna build a new house or a new business, I gotta pay the bills today. We gotta pay the contractor today. That means somebody is borrowing money. Somebody is taking on risk to put the finances together to pay for this project. One way you could do it, which we didn't do in C.H. Robinson and we won't do here, and I'll always strive to push you to never even consider it, but it's what we call upfront, where the city cuts a check, a big check upfront to help pay for the project day one, and then hopes to God that the revenues come in to recoup the costs. That's risky. That's risk on city shoulders. The other way, which is the way we did with C.H. Robinson, is we say, look, you pay for everything, you take on all the risks, and we say, if you build what you say you're gonna build and you pay your taxes, if that money comes in time, 90% of whatever the county sends us from that tax increment, we'll cut you a check back every year for those 9 years, or until we hit a dollar figure, whatever comes first. That way, if they have a fire and they don't rebuild, if they don't pay their property taxes, if the state changes how property taxes are calculated, if any number of things happen that we don't collect any revenue, the city is absolutely not on the hook to come up with the shortfall. So at the end of 9 years, if we haven't fully paid up whatever the number was in the contract, we just write it off.
So the case of C.H. Robinson, it's $750,000 or 9 years, I think it is. The last payment is 1 February 2026. Which is next,
Has it been 9 years?
2017, 20, yeah.
Are you sure the last payment is 2026?
February 1st, is I got a copy of the agreement. Let's see it, so.
That means this year is the final year of that TIF district, because your February 26 payment will be based on second half taxes in 25.
Okay.
And that means the tax base associated with C.H. Robinson is being released next year.
So the money that the city has contributed every year, which is the two payments are about $100,000 a year.
Yes.
So at February 2026, do we get any of that money back?
So the city has been retaining 10% of whatever you collected.
Okay.
And I don't have your 24 audit yet, of course. I did bring your 23 audit. I'll see what's in that fund. But anyways, if you take that $100 and some thousand a year and the 10% that you're retaining for administrative costs, which you have next to nothing, and you're paying me to do the TIF reporting is all you're doing. That will have built cash. And so at the end of the life of the TIF district, you send back, the end of this year, you would send back any unused funds to the county. And the county picks out how much of that is city money, how much is county, and how much is state, and then you'll get it. You'll get your share back, and it will not be TIF money anymore. It'll be regular taxes. It'll be unbudgeted revenue.
So there's 10% of what there was that we have coming back, then is that correct? So you're looking at $75,000.
That was 10% 1 year or 10% each year?
You retain
Just
10% each year,
Well, yeah, but I mean.
or maybe it
total
was 5%. It might have been
750.
5%, but whatever it was.
750,
You want this to connect?
so it'd be 75 or.
Let's see, would we have called that Robinson?
No, it went under a different name.
I just have to find it.
It went under the engineering company, wasn't it? That went around, I think it was the engineering company.
I've got your 2023 audit open on my laptop here. I was just gonna find how much money was at the end of 23, because it would be slightly bigger than that now.
Be slightly bigger because of the increase in taxes.
Well, just because we continued to make payments, but we would have continued to retain the administrative retainage piece. They put it in the back. TIF 1-1. Okay, so at the end of the 2023. Did you guys miss a payment? I think this is
Yeah,
overstated.
there was one doubled up, yeah.
Yeah, this is overstated, but at the time you had $170,000 in there, but I can't remember how much was overpaid. But the city would only get whatever the number ends up being at the end of the life of the TIF district, you'd only get a portion of that back.
City's portion of it.
Yep. Yep. Now, people that think tax increment financing, we don't get any benefit at all. Like a narrow view of city budget, you're correct, you don't get any benefit until after the district is done. Neither will the county, but the school district will benefit day one. Because every school in Minnesota, it seems, has the market value operating referendum that gets approved via referendum every few years for their spending. We don't get to touch that. So as everyone in the room is probably, except for me, is probably a school taxpayer of this district. So you do benefit because it's helping to pay for that.
That just referendum portion of it?
It's mostly the referendum bit, but there's a little bit of their, what I'll call their normal taxes that we don't get to touch either. But simply put, school taxpayers will benefit day one for a new project, whether there's a TIF district or not. And again,
Which school district?
the one in which it's located.
So that would be Pine Island.
Is that Pine Island on that side?
Um,
Like east side of 52 or west side of 52.
Not all the west side of 52 though is Pine Island. There is Rochester over there.
All the lines are all weird.
But I mean, the majority of it is, I mean, as a whole, a lot of it goes to Pine Island.
So, based on what I saw in an email today from their real estate guy, they got something from the county. They think that the tax base of the property is gonna be about $55,000. So based on projected tax rates, that means when the TIF district is gone, you would be able to increase your levy by about $25,000 without an increase in your tax rate. But that, you can't do that until the TIF district is gone. I mean, you can do it beforehand, but it'll lead to more of an increase on everybody else.
So when we deal with C.H. Robinson, they submitted a business subsidy contract summary, which outlined everything that this tip, that the developer agrees to.
Yep, I did that. Yeah, that's from me.
So before we get too far into the weeds here, isn't that something we should have before we seriously consider setting up a TIF district?
Well, I think what you'd be prepared to note is that it's gonna be a 9-year pay-as-you-go.
So are they added employees?
That has yet, I asked them in their email to provide you a letter stating that they're asking for the TIF and they can't do it without it, and explain a little bit why. They're supposed to address how many new jobs are they gonna bring to town, and they have to create those jobs in 2 years and meet the wage goal, whatever they agree to. I told them to be safe, we don't want them to not make it, right? What else did I ask them for? They gave me the parcel numbers, we've got the valuation. So they wanna know. They're gonna spend a lot of money, I think, in terms of designing buildings and so forth. So there's a lot of investment that they don't wanna start themselves until they know that they're gonna get what they're asking.
Yeah,
for.
that's, C.H. Robinson was a data center, and if you ever get a chance, I call it a data center because everything's redundant. Computers, generators, everything's redundant, a tremendous amount of expense put into it.
Yeah.
And I understand what fire safety is, at least for my limited use of what a fire safety does. They bring trucks in, they add stuff to it, they ship it out. So the investment for that building and offices and equipment seems relatively low compared to like what C.H. Robinson did.
It could be. It's an 18,000 square foot building is what they're proposing.
Okay, all right.
And the value proposed by whoever it was at the county that sent it was, about 2.5 million.
Yeah. 2.5.
Now, chances are is their costs are gonna be higher than that. Because typically counties assess at a value, especially like if you build a new house, you could spend 300,000, well, you could spend $500,000 building a new house, but your initial assessed value probably would be 400,000.
The data center value is around 5 million now.
Yeah, here it is. Assessed value of just over 2.5 million. So, I mean, if you're just against it in terms of principle, we just tell them no thanks. And in fact, I think they would prefer a no now rather than a no later, if you think it's gonna be a no. If you're interested in the project, then on Wednesday night, there's a resolution for you to adopt that will start the process.
It gets a little bit quick because you have to have 3 days notice before you can do anything that's on for resolutions, because the rest of it is just a budget meeting. For a workshop, so we don't have it set up for what there is to make decisions for the council.
Well, you can always indicate to me that you're in support of it and adopt it at a later date, and I'll just take you on your word.
Yeah, I mean.
That's what this is for.
And I'm not in a
Talk
rush.
about this, cause again, no sweat off my shoulders or Mike's, like, this is your guys'
I kind
decision.
of look at things this way. I'm not anxious to do that. Okay, we have 2 other businesses that are right next door to where they're at, and they did it without a TIF, and they went into it.
Yep.
And we've got people that are looking at this property here that there is, in Orinoco or even the new stuff that might be coming in.
Sure.
And there's a demand for it. It's not like we have to beg people
Well, there you
to
go.
come in here, you know, and I mean, that's just the way I kind of look at it, that, no, I don't personally like to give out gifts. I really don't. I don't want to wait 10 years,
If,
you know, to get any benefit that there is that comes like out of it.
if you think that they would build without TIF, or you're gonna get other stuff without TIF, then you probably shouldn't use it.
I think, yeah, I mean,
But probably what will happen is they will go to Pine Island at Chatfield, wherever, you know.
that they're welcome to go wherever it is, okay? And, you know, that doesn't bother me any.
Well, then, there you go. I mean, you have your answer.
No, that's just, I gave you my opinion.
Oh, okay, well, one of five, we have your answer, but if everyone feels the same. But I can just tell you, if I was them, I'd like to having a no answer quickly is better than, you know, stringing it along and, you know.
No, and I understand that too. I mean, we've been waiting a long time to see the thing for Robinsons and, you know, 10 years down the road, that property that's gonna be there is gonna definitely be taken up by somebody. In that area, it's its prime location. It's right off of 52 and 100. I mean, it's perfect, you know, so. And that's why the other two businesses went in without doing the other.
So is there a,
I guess I'm kind of viewing it as it's a way for them to afford something that they couldn't normally afford. Basically, it's like leasing a car. At least people lease cars because they can't afford it in the first
It
place.
could be that they're looking for a certain return on their investment. And, or it could be that they just feel it's a risky endeavor. And this is what they need to make them feel warm and fuzzy to pull the trigger. What their reasons are, doesn't matter. I mean, if we believe that they're not gonna do it without TIF.
Or they could also go forward and say that, and if they don't get it, still go forward.
They might, if they're lying to us, then you would absolutely have done the right thing. But like, maybe they really, really want to be in Orinoco. I don't know that, but I'll just about guarantee you one of these cities around Rochester.
Oh, and they're welcome to go wherever they wanna go to at times that way too, you know, I mean, we're not. Open where we've got lots of land that there is in this town that we're playing around with, where we're kind of landlocked with a lot of stuff that's going on, you know, and so. You know, I mean, it's one of those things that you look at, it's like some of these other places might have an easier way to have other land that's there that they can go and
Sure.
play around with
Sure.
too. Yeah, I just,
so I got a question. Is that 9-year Minnesota statute figure?
Yes.
Nothing
It's
less.
worded weird in the statute. The statute says you collect 8 years worth of increment after the first. Which means 9 years.
And there's no shorter terms on that. That's
Sure, you can negotiate, that's the max we can go with this type of TIF district is 9.
So it is, following his line, it's negotiable like 6 years or 5 years.
4, 5, 6, you know, whatever you wanna do. They might say,
I think that this particular company would be a great benefit to Orinoco if we could figure something out with them. I think that they would be, I've been in their businesses, I've met their owners, and I think that they would be really a fantastic fit in Orinoco, but I think the terms have to be right for something like that.
I would definitely like to see the letter, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that Orinoco Crossings Board, which is controlling the land, you know, they've been very diligent about finding people to come in there. And there's been a lot of businesses that they haven't pursued. So I think, to me, that speaks well for People's Energy Cooperative and the board, saying this is something the community could really use and benefit from it, whether it's not property wise, but just the amount of traffic flow in and out of the city and restaurants, and that benefits everybody, gas. So there is a plus for having a company come in that's supported by the Gold Rush Crossing or the Orinoco Crossings Board of Directors. And I think that speaks well for city support of them to do that. And I think it'd be great if we could negotiate something, because that's, you know, you look at, in the case of C.H. Robinson, that's, almost $900,000 that we wrote checks to them. And we get,
Now, remember, the cities, when you talk about what we gave up, a good portion of that was county and a little bit of that was school. So it wasn't all city money that was going out the door.
They wrote the check.
so if you look at a
But it
tax
wasn't city
statement,
money.
you look at a tax statement, can you see how much that truly is?
They won't give you the breakout in the tax statement. It'll just say the city, county and school lines will be smaller. And then there'll just be one line that says TIF. And that'll be a big number, but it doesn't break that out how much a city, but I would expect, just looking at this breakdown here, this new building, if it was built, their annual taxes would be about 82 grand. And the city taxes on that, probably be a third of that. The rest of it would be city, county. Oh, and there's also state property taxes. We don't get to touch the state property taxes either. So of that 100,000, I would suppose maybe somewhere between maybe 40% of that, 50% of that was city.
40% every year.
Yeah, so if it was $900,000 out, maybe half of that was city money. Would have been city money. Had we done
Get the
it.
10% back on.
No, I just mean the money that you're sending out the door. You know, that $100,000 a year, you know, maybe half of that was city money.
So
But
if you,
given what we negotiate and it being half the value of C.H. Robinson, just at the 30,000 foot level, it could be something, that payment could be 50,000 or less a year instead of 100,000.
I think it'd be about 50,000, yeah. Just eyeballing this, yeah.
Two $25,000 payments.
Yeah, if we do biannual, yeah.
If we do 9 years, compare
Semi-annual.
values, half of what it's our, at C.H. Robinson, so I think that's,
so
they can
the
demonstrate.
length is negotiable, is the amount negotiable?
Yes.
And say, you know, we could TIF 50% per year for 5 years, or
Yep.
like something like that is also negotiable?
So if you said,
So what's not negotiable in a situation like this, I guess, is what,
what's not negotiable?
School district and state taxes.
So another thing that I'm looking
Tax.
For certain.
They're always.
looking down the road. Right, is what else and what other developments are gonna be coming into the city that might ask for TIF, okay? And if we give this up, we don't have that much to look also on something else that might be going or coming in. So, you know, I mean, the Robinsons has cost us a lot of money. Yeah, we're gonna start seeing something out of it eventually coming up relatively soon. But that's still, it's a huge length of time that the residents are gonna be paying the taxes that there are off the rest. And I'm just looking at what else might be coming. That's why I'm saying,
I just want to,
go
I
ahead.
just want to be clear that C.H. Robinson didn't cost you anything other than opportunity cost. So if the argument is, oh, if we wouldn't have done this TIF, we would have got that C.H. Robinson tax money, the answer is no, they would have built somewhere else. If the argument is, well, okay, that might be true, but then that parcel was available for something else, then there's an opportunity cost, but there's no way to measure that.
No, but it's also looking at what's going on right now with Rochester growing this direction. And what you have that's coming, in other words, those other two businesses came pretty quick, and that was the same property that People's had as well.
And that's a
Over
very
there.
solid argument. I mean, you could just say, we think the development takes care of itself because of our situation. Like, Byron, I work for Byron, but I've only started working for them in the past 5 years or so. I'm not aware that they've got any TIF at all. They've done some tax abatements for some housing projects. I don't remember a TIF district in Byron. So I mean, some people are taking that position.
And I think that there's enough with businesses coming in to be able to take that position. You know, I mean, that's just my thinking.
hear your argument on that as well? I mean, it's all valid points. But knowing everything's negotiable, I just wouldn't want to shut the door to talking to them.
I'm not saying, but to turn around and make a decision and have this thing out and gone and everything taken care of by Wednesday?
Well, all you're doing Wednesday, if you did it, was to call for a public hearing. But
just, I don't even think it's at that point to call for a public hearing right now. I mean, that's again, my,
All right, well, all I was trying to do in that schedule was to, they wanted to get moving. And so all I was trying to do, because there's notice requirements, the documents have to be prepared. So that was about as quick as we could do it. So as far as I'm concerned, when I leave tonight, I'm just gonna consider myself in a holding pattern until you guys figure out what you wanna do. It makes no difference to me.
I'd like to
we-
say that I didn't see this till today.
yeah, and I didn't get that until like, and I was busy all afternoon and all this stuff came. It's like, going, wow.
Well, this was,
Yeah, now we're going.
this
It's
was
like,
posted out last week.
the budget.
It didn't get sent to me, Jason. I need to start making
Okay,
sure that
well, it was
comes to
also
me.
posted online. It was sent to your
Well, I
email.
don't check the online. It doesn't come to
Okay.
my.
I'm not here to argue about
It
that.
doesn't come to my personal email.
So again, with that also was posted for the special council meeting posted online. And we did post the notice for the resolution for this. Cause we don't know. I don't know. So it was posted to plan. If it's not, then so be it. We take it off. It's not a big deal. It's one of those things. Trying to get this stuff out as soon as we get it put together to present to council, and then we can go from there. But we're here to get kind of everybody's opinion or thoughts and see if there's anything to take back to them or just to say, nope, sorry, but things, but no thanks.
Yeah. And
So,
maybe what they'd be best to do is have one of their representatives meet with one or two of you, as opposed to staff and I having a phone conversation with them. Because we don't know what you're gonna approve, you know. Anyways, I wanted you to understand the mechanics of it. And what we'll do is we'll just let them know there was a hesitation, and if they want more, they can come to the council directly, and I'll just wait to hear from you. And maybe I don't, and that's fine.
So along with it, this letter,
Yep.
and maybe it'd be too early to do that, but when you did C.H. Robinson, you did TIF projections,
Mhm.
but that came after the fact or?
Yeah, well, it's when we kind of knew we were going forward, you know. But I think you can pretty much eyeball, it's gonna be about 50 grand a year. So if that went 9 years, that's 450,000 roughly.
But I would like to see the letter and what they're planning to do for jobs. You know, it's not a high. I mean, there's a certain technical mechanical aptitude I'm sure they're looking for, but it's not a data center computer operator like C.H. Robinson, so.
They were talking about 25 or 30 at one point.
yeah, and I don't know how many of that is ones they are already bringing up from their businesses versus creating.
Any job that they bring into your corporate limits from somewhere else, wherever it is a new job at Orno.
Okay, I wasn't sure how that was.
Regardless if they're coming from Rochester out here.
Right,
Yeah,
you know.
okay. And they haven't sent their, I haven't gotten their letter that you had asked for either.
Yeah, I'd asked them for a variety of things, and the first thing I saw was, it was this morning
Yeah.
with those valuations, so. Well, okay, there's no point in just kicking a dead horse here. Is there any other questions on that topic you wanna go over? Okay. All right, so then the other reason I'm here has to do with budget. Jason said you guys had a number of questions. And I'll try and do my best to answer them.
While they ponder their questions, you wanna kind of go over this real quick?
Sure.
Talk about this.
Okay, so Jason has shared with me his preliminary budget numbers and the levy increase. And what this page here is trying to do is to show you the impact of that budget if you stick with it, if you don't make any changes.
Can you make that a bit larger for?
Can I walk around? You mind?
The big enough?
All right, so the first thing is, I can't reach that high, the levy itself at 1.9 million, which is is that a 9% increase? What is that, 9 point? No, that's the tax base, never mind. The levy, the way you calculate your tax rate is you take your levy divided by your tax base. Sometimes that's called tax capacity, so if you ever hear tax capacity or tax base, the same thing. And so here's your tax base, 3.8 million. So if you levy 1.9, that'd be your tax rate. And then Jason was good enough to put in the prior years. So you can see you had been hovering in those forties. But with this sizable levy increase, that would jump that tax rate to 50%. So how much does that raise taxes? So what I did was I asked Google, I said, what's the average value of a home in Orinoco? And it came in at $526,000. Can you change this number here to 526 for me?
This one?
Yeah, they just have it equal that number there. Yeah. So if, okay, you know what, hit Control Z. We'll do this easier. Just change that to 0%, that 11 to 0. If the home value did not increase from this year to next year, their taxes will have gone, their city taxes will have gone from 2358 to that number there, a 13% increase. So spending alone in the city is leading to this 300 roughly dollar increase in their taxes. But we all know most of your homes aren't gonna stay static in value, right? They're gonna go up, right? So what I did is I just found one parcel in, Orinoco on the county GIS website and said, you know, what happened to their value? And it went up 11%. So if this value went up 11%, now their taxes are going up 26%, from that number to that number. So basically, it was 13% to 26. Basically, half of this increase is due to spending, and half of it's due to the fact that their value of their home went up. And we can plug in any value you like, and we can change this to any percentage that you like. Is there a more typical value? Am I using too much home there? What would be a better value to use?
You'll see I kind of did that here with these numbers. And Mike, you're gonna explain.
Yeah, so you had to take these blue numbers. So if this $315,000 house went up 11% to $349,650, their taxes would have went up $361. From 25 to 26, again, 26% increase. So the 26% increase, if we keep the levy increase where it is, if we keep the home value increase at the same, it's gonna be a 26% increase, no matter what your value of your home is. So whatever your city taxes were, that's how much it'll go up. If your home is going up 11% in value. So what I'd rather have you do is to, instead of get like $361.52, by God, that's what they said. What I'd rather have you do is get a sense and a feel to the amount of burden, because one of the things we're ignoring in this is market value homestead exclusion, which is a formula that adjusts your value and what you're taxed at. So, you know, it may not work out to the penny, but it's gonna be, you're gonna see it, you're gonna feel it, my point.
And this was kind of put together to show, you know, the wide range of homes to give an idea of, you know, between every $50,000 from this year, 2025's increase to 2026, but to kind of show, because I know that's a lot of times people have questions, they don't understand, well, my home's at this, well, how did we get to here? And what is the actual city property taxes versus the full ones they're getting?
Yeah, I think that 300 or 315 is not a realistic
It's
value.
low.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, I think that you're probably looking closer at 600,
Okay,
you know, would be a realistic for, you know, probably a majority, I would think, of the houses, maybe 60% of the houses in town.
For that to be average, there's quite a few of them there.
Yeah, this is an average, these are just, I put these numbers
Yeah,
in
no, but
here,
I'm just saying.
because
so
we
when
have
we're
months
looking
below that.
As talking to people, residents, you're looking at maybe a $723 realistic increase on their taxes this coming year.
I wasn't
That's
sure where to
realistic.
go with this, because I've always kind of thought of Orinoco as the west side and the east side. And sort of, I always viewed the west side as the big acreages and the huge homes and the older stuff more on the
You
east
got a
side.
lot of it on this side, a lot of big homes on this side, oh yeah.
Well, I'm more sensitive to the
Highway division.
lower value folks.
Yeah,
because
no,
they-
but I mean, I'm just still looking too, because I mean, dollars are dollars.
And then as you get into that 450, you're probably completely wiped out that homesteading exclusion.
That-
So then.
You're a little over 500,000, that market value exclusion goes away.
So then those numbers are probably.
Like these people
more
don't benefit
accurate.
from there at all. Yes, these will be,
Yeah.
Yep.
Though the lower numbers might be 15% high
might be
or 5
a small bit. Yeah.
high.
On a $250,000 home, they get excluded about 20-some thousand dollars comes off. So in the 300s, you're probably looking less than 20 grand difference.
That only comes off the property value, not the improvement values.
Right, so if somebody sees their tax statement, the first number is gonna be their real value. And then then they're gonna say market value exclusion, and then the next number is they're gonna take that number from the first. And they'll say, this is what you're being taxed on.
But the homestead exclusion is only for the property itself. It's not for the improvements on the property. You get a $700,000 house on a $200,000 lot. But there wouldn't be any, but it would only be on the lot itself. It's not on the entire.
It's on the entire value.
Is it?
Yep, it doesn't differentiate between land value and building value, it's just the formula on the total value gets adjusted. So, maybe, Jason, what we should do is we should go to your general fund page.
Where are we at between what we're taxing and our tax base compared to other cities around here?
Compared to most cities, you are gonna be on the lower end, even with this
Even
increase.
with the increase,
So this was last year's, we're in orange, the ones around us are in pink.
Okay.
Most of them are sitting, Rochester's at 51%, what we're at.
That would be the
45.
closest.
Eota was at 48, the rest were 60, 65, 81, and 89%.
You go to my hometown in Fillmore County and it'll be in the 90s.
so they're closer to that, like you said, our tax capacity is 3.6. So a lot of these other cities are already, they would be at the 3.4, 3.2, somewhere in there. Is that what you're saying, is they're at 80 or 90% of their tax capacity, so they're.
Well, if their tax rate is, for instance, Rochester's 50%. Let's say you had the exact same tax rate as Rochester.
Okay.
Your levy generates 1.9 million, theirs generates
19.
30 million, whatever. So yeah, it's just what's they're gonna levy to balance their budget divided by their tax base. And that's why towns with lots of value, lots of size, particularly business value. Those are the towns that are gonna be hard to compete with. But that's why the small towns like in Fillmore County. You take little town of Mabel, your tax rate is projected to go to 50%. Their tax rate is 180%, and that's just the city. Of course, their homes aren't valued at 600,000 either, they're valued at 200.
As far as the region's concerned, we still have one of the lower tax rates.
Then,
But your taxpayers won't care about that.
No.
All they'll know is that they're paying more than they did last year.
All they care about is the levy.
So, here's a breakdown in the levy. So there's a total of that 1.9 million. A small piece of that has to do with some existing debt, which is probably gonna expire in the next few years, and there's not much there anyway. Most of your debt, the big money debt, is in your utilities, sewer, water. We'll talk about that in a bit. So when I first saw this is what's that increase in the levy? The 37% increase in the levy.
36.7.
Yeah.
37.
Over 20,
You know,
25.
let's just check the formula quick, Jason. Click on that cell. Hit F2.
Is that the
Hit the
same one
F2 button
you're
for me.
looking at, right? Is that about the same one you're looking at? Is-
Yes.
Yeah, I put this number in.
So we're taking
I just want to make sure
This-
we're.
minus this divided by this. That's correct. It is correct. So, I mean, that's a big number.
And that's, again, like I talked with Mike about this, you know, going through, this is the first year we're investing into CIP funds for future projects. Something that's never been done before for a lot of different departments. And so that's where we saw a lot of the growth and transfers out. You'll see this.
Yep, right there. That's probably the primary, one of the primary culprits to this.
Yep.
Because in the past, the city has levied somewhere between $100,000 to $150,000 in that, so. Does it show? Yeah, 130 or 150.
Yeah. So, you know, this is, again, part of that CIP planning that we spent this time going through and putting together people's, you know, different departments' projects and growth services. You know, I think even the first time, like I showed this to you, that was at.
It was at 614,000.
Yeah, and that was, this was at like 50% levy increase. So,
But just as an example, the CIP, I agree, is if you were to lower the 2.4 to 2.2. If you took 200,000 out of the CIP, it dropped to 22.6%. Tax levy over 2025, ratio 0.45.
If you reduce this by 200,000,
Yeah,
can you just change that to 242 once? Now the levy increase is 22.6, yeah. I want to talk more about your 425 fund in a minute, but. And I suppose if you were to go up through all the line items, you could scrimp and scrape some additional cuts in it, you know. But when you're just looking for those big ticket items that caused it, I mean, that's the thing that jumped off the page to me. When I saw it. Not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying. You know, people might have questions about the size of the increase.
and that's what happened last year. We started out with our preliminary budget about 0.45 or something like that, almost 5.
5%.
And we adopted something in 371, so. But it was, and we did everything, we had 100,000 in CIP, but it was painful. And that was no growth, no new people. And that's gotta change.
Well, I want to talk to you about that capital fund, but what kind of questions do you have generally about the budget that? Or maybe you don't, and that's fine too.
The capital or the 100 fund?
Well, let's just say the 100. Do you have questions regarding this 1.9 levy? 1.9 million levy that's there, I mean, is things you don't understand about?
Because I don't understand the difference between the levy rate, the tax rate,
Oh, yeah, okay.
like the differences, why? Which one of these is, I mean, they're all probably important
So-
numbers, but.
The tax rate is the important number because this number here and your value of your home are gonna be the two primary factors that dictate your taxes. So when you see this rate compared to, I'm gonna just round up, call it 45, so the tax rate's jumping 5 something points. That's a pretty sizable jump. This number here. Oh, this is Jason's number. You can ignore this. This is basically saying this number went up 5-6%.
Telling you how much it went up.
Yeah. Nobody uses that. That's just Jason. But that's the number that the public is gonna, because all the newspapers tend to publish the levy percentage increase when they do articles. No explanation for why or what the impact is. I mean, I have some towns where they were levying $100,000.
I think he was questioning what the 50% represents
Well,
50% of the tax capacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that number divided by your tax base for next year. That's the rate.
And so our tax base went up substantially this year, right?
Oh, yeah,
It went up from 37 last year.
And,
Went from 3.1 to 3.8.
and is
Yeah.
that number from the county, Jason, or was that? Okay.
That's directly from the
We were
county.
at 37.1 last year. Daniel,
30, 3.1.
37.1, and now we're
Oh,
up.
he's talking about the capacity.
Yeah, the capacity is, the
20,
capacity
25%.
went
Yeah,
up.
went up about, 670,000 or so, 700. That's a lot. And chances are, is it has a lot to do with everybody's homes getting jacked up in value. Because the county assessor by law, they assign a value to everybody's home, and then they go in and look and sees what people are actually selling their homes for. And if they're assessing at a value that's lower than what these sales are doing, they're gonna jack everybody up, because by law, they have to be within 90%.
The assessor came through, the appraiser came through about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And because of the increased 14%, they came back and they were reevaluating properties. They were doing a walkthrough. Because of the, all I get, and I think just general concern.
Every 4 years, they're supposed to knock on everybody's door and take a physical peek, but then in those other years, they're just doing it based on sales. What did we have assigned and what are people actually selling for? So if they're taxing everybody a $200,000 house and everybody's selling for 400,000, there's gonna be an adjustment. So I expect that's where a good portion of that is.
We haven't had a whole lot of sales going on this past year anyway, what's going on with the interest rate, so it's kind of kept everything down where.
But the ones that have been higher.
Oh, I believe that. Oh, yeah.
So this was kind of a nice bump. We knew in 23, the value increases were, that happened a lot across the state where people were selling homes for more than what they were being taxed at. So this doesn't surprise me here. That seems reasonable. But then look from there, there's basically nothing. And so I don't know if this is a catch-up year or what.
So then that 50.7% is a combination of home values going up, but also the amount that we're looking at the budget for projects.
Yeah, but 3.8 is a function of new construction that would have occurred in 2024, which would hit in 26. So any homes built in 24, any businesses in 24, those would hit in 26. Plus anybody's home values that were going up from this year to next. That's all represented in that 3.8. The 1.9 is just a function of your spending. It's a function of your budget. And so,
So if we had said, if they had another flat year like they did say, it went to $3.2 million, we would actually be up higher with our percentage because there wasn't the raise in the tax capacity. So because of that, it affords us to take a little bit more, but keep tax rates relatively low in comparison.
And if we're at 1.7 for the levy, we're right on par with that 44, 40.
let's play with it. Let's go back to that general fund and take that 200 again out of that 442. And then let's go back and see what it does. Well, it says right there, 45% is your tax rate right there. 44, so it
It's
stays,
still a little higher than last year, but
but close enough for government work.
But that, again, doesn't help us prepare for future.
no, because that 200,000 gets eaten up by the roads.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so let's talk about that CIP fund. At the end of 2023, we haven't had your budget yet, or your audit yet from 24, but at the end of 2023, that fund had over $800,000 in it, that CIP fund. I don't mean it was a separate account at the bank. I just mean, in the internal, when all the money that the city has and it gets reallocated to all these different funds internally, that particular fund had over $800,000. Just fine, I'll tell you exactly what it was, 425.
And that's what our audit tells us.
The end of, the 2023 audit. There it is. $844,000. And that's the fund that you'd been putting, $150,000 into each year. And so over time, and you have all of it, and so over time it grows. Nice. But here's where I really want, dang nabbit, I do. Exercise some caution. So Jason, being new to the city, had a little bit of a panic attack when you guys got your first invoices for your loan payments, which are what, close to $500,000 when they add them all together. And, you know, primarily that's gonna be out of your sewer fund. And I had worked with the city prior to your project to try and project what would be needed to make those payments. Not just utility rate increases, but working with Joe Palin. He told me roughly how many accounts will be connected and when, what kind of growth they wanted to see. The state of Minnesota had input on that too. They wanted to see some growth factored in to the connections. So you had a variety of revenues. You had your monthly base rates, your volume rates, what you're charging Orinoco Estates. You had special assessments on folks' tax statements, including Orinoco Estates had some assessments. And all that kind of comes into play. And then we had our budget for running a sewer system, plus all the debt, just tons of money. And in those projections, even with rate increases, you know what, could I plug, can I take your HDMI cord? Big, thick football hands. I got little skinny basketball hands. Let's see if this pops up. There we go. And I'll zoom in. So here we're projecting out what the rates would be, and we're expecting, you know, every year your rates were gonna be adjusted, and you're not just gonna leave them flat from year to year. And then up above, we had, you know, the number of connections you'd have to the system year by year. And all that impacted our revenues, because obviously the more people connected, the more you're getting bills, and then the more people connect, the more connection charges you collect from new development, all that kind of comes into play. All of that being said, see this green line right here? The CIP fund was identified as our backup plan. I mean, the problem with your project is that we were building a whole new business from scratch, a sewer business. Who's to say how quickly we're actually gonna connect people? Who's to say how much growth we're gonna see? A lot of variables are in play, and that's why I've been kind of saying, where's that 24 audit? Let's see how we're doing. Let's see how we're doing. So the CIP fund was expected to be required to help fund payments in the early, you know, the most difficult time of any business is the first 3 to 5 years. That's when they mostly go under.
For 3 years.
That's where we're at right now. We're in our initial period of this new business. And like when Ryland contacted me and you guys wanted to buy that fire truck and you ended up doing a lease, which I appreciated as opposed to taking cash out of that $800,000 sitting in that fund. And then when you were levying into that fund, I want to caution you, put as much money in there as you're willing to do. Be cautious how much going out the door in these early years. I would like to get 2-3 years of solid activity in that new business of ours before we say it's self-sufficient. Just as plan B. So when I saw the 614,000 and then now it's 442, but it looked like in Fund 4025, all that money was going right out the door next year.
That's my concern too.
Yeah.
I.
And I don't know if your 800,000 is still 800,000 because I haven't seen the 24.
We talked about that last time. I think it was like 500,000.
Yeah, so there's less in there than what there was.
So have you done a cash flow analysis with with the projections for next year for any growth on the condos or?
Nope. Nope, I was kind of waiting for this 24 audit before we do any of that.
Makes sense, yeah, because you need to have.
I want to see where we're currently at.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, we're going back a year and it doesn't do any good. You're gonna do it again afterwards, so.
Well, our projections were reasonable, but I'll guarantee you they're wrong.
Oh, yeah, conservative 10. That was-
My crystal ball is as foggy as yours is, you know.
Shake it up as that 8 ball.
Yeah, it makes the snowflakes move around. So, I think in Jason's budget, I think he had like a 10% increase designed for rates for next year. I don't know, has the city been raising its sewer rates?
We raised it 10% this year for 2025.
Great.
Sewer and water.
So it took sewer and water both at a, I think higher, I don't remember what the percentage projected was.
I think I was using 3% a
So-
year.
Did you have Kane, was that right? You did all that stuff, so, okay.
I've got it right here.
Yeah, zoom out a little because I can't.
But we also have,
Yeah, I was using
because we've
3%.
run 15, 16 months now, we also have 12 months of revenue and also
Yep.
expenses.
Yep.
So we do have some,
So what I'll be able to do is update the model for actual 24 activity. And then work with Jason to see, okay, how much actual sales have we had this year? He did a little bit of that. He took the 25 sales so far and he extrapolated it out for 12 months and it came up with like 500 some thousand dollars revenue, but I wasn't sure how much of that might be development fees.
And it's broken down. Kane did a really good job of this with working with Mel to kind of put some of these numbers together as well to break down the last
But
years.
the assessment revenues that you're collecting, all of that stuff looked kind of in line with what we were hoping to have happen. So that was encouraging. So that's my only, that was my one thing to impress upon the council is just recognize that that fund is sort of our safety valve for making those huge payments. So if you dump $442,000 in there, any money that you can hold on to, I would. But doesn't mean you can't spend it. It just maybe don't spend it next year.
Not a put and take account.
Was that?
It's not a put and take account.
Well, yeah. It's a great account to have because there's items that you can't budget for in a single budget cycle. So you have this off-book fund where you, as part of your budget, you transfer money each year and then you build cash and then you buy something.
And you'll see in the CIP, there's a lot of that, you know, we even went through recent and took out like, okay, the used dump truck with Kane, well, not $50,000 purchase, we're gonna do 10,000 a year for 5 years, so we're putting in 10,000, it's not getting touched, it's gonna sit there as a fund, you know, if we need it, and then 5 years down the road, presumably it's, you know, still around that price type thing, we've got that funds available to use it or whatever's left over to help offset
Yeah, if the
costs.
sewer fund is going good, it'll
Yeah.
just be building cash.
So,
If we're gonna be holding on to that kind of money every year for multiple years, where is it? I mean, is it sitting there just stagnant or is it in some sort
Going
of
in
fund
CD.
making?
Well, all of your money
You know,
is
like-
located where right now?
so we have. It's a great question. So we've got two accounts. We got our main account, which is our in and out for pretty much everything. Or if you will, like your checking account, basically. And then we've got it's called an MMDA account, money market.
Market account.
Now, no idea where that came from or how there, but that's the one that's sitting there with a little over $1 million. You'll see that in
Is that at the bank or is that at the
that's at the bank.
bank? Yeah.
And then we have 2 CDs with the bank, and then all the interest from the CDs in the money market account accumulate in the money market account each year, and I think like this last year, I don't know, $15,000 of interest that accrued, and it's put in there, 20,000, something like that. But that's kind of where it's sitting now.
So the CIP fund would be going into there as well.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna have a conversation with you that I always have with new staff people as well. People that come from accounting backgrounds, but not municipal backgrounds. So there's what I call real accounting, which is where's the money physically located? So I've got my checking account, I got my savings account, I got CDs, I got money market account, I got all these things. And I don't care how those are split up. But you add it all up and it comes up to some big number, right? That's all city money. But this doesn't tell you what the money's for, it just tells you where the money's at. So then we gotta go on the other side, which is La La Land accounting, it's fantasy accounting, it's fund accounting, it's city accounting. And that says of this big pile of money, regardless of where it's located, so much of this is general fund operations, so much of this is sewer fund, so much of this is, so that CD. I had this happen to me in Lanesboro where the fire chief comes in and says, well, that CD says a fire truck CD. I said, no, that's just a city CD. I go into your audit and I say, what does the fire department say you have? So each fund owns a derivative piece of the checking account, of the savings account, of the CDs and so forth, right? So your MMDA, your money market fund is a conglomeration of all these different internal fantasy land fund accounting funds. Am I making sense?
So in other
Okay.
words, if you did it yourself, you'd get busted for commingling funds.
Yeah.
In reality.
So the current 442,000, that's in what's being proposed now. In the capital fund, there's nothing there identifies it as supporting the sewer fund.
Correct. My thought was not to necessarily officially budget any of that for the sewer fund. It's just reserves on hand if we're in a pinch to make our
Right, it's
payments.
reserves that in the past we've transferred, like you said. And
So I wouldn't
right now, we don't know
transfer,
how much is, we don't know how much is reserved.
I wouldn't do, and when we say transfer, we don't mean in the banking accounts, it would just be a journal entry, you know. I wouldn't transfer any Fund 425 money to the sewer fund if and until it's needed. If it's never needed, well, great. But if we're short 100 grand in the sewer fund, then you do a journal entry and just move it over.
But it's let the sewer start to pay for itself and let it run on its own. So it's a new entity, new business.
And to make
Year
it,
number 2.
And-
If it's running close, you let it run.
Yeah, well, no, if it's running
Until-
close, great, fantastic,
Until
you
it
know, that's
goes
where we
under,
wanna
you
go,
don't
yeah.
do anything.
correct.
And that's what I had Kane and I sat down with, and for 2026, we kind of worked on what are our expenditures gonna be? Cause now we've got that full year, what is everything going to be? And, you know, with the numbers, I think as they sit right now, the water fund is actually in the positives, about 40,000. And the
Makes sense.
sewer next year is in the negatives, what was it, 128 or 77?
What about if we look at next year too, and we raise again another 5% or 8% or even 10%?
I think that was with an
On the
increase.
sewer would be able to bring that up where we'd be
That
much,
was with an increase.
what percentage?
I think 10%.
That's with a 10%, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that's where we wanna go.
Our original projections were at least 3% every year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think we need to jump up more, and I
Great.
think people would be more willing to pay that little extra if they knew that it was starting to catch up to where it is for operating costs.
And if you ever found the need to transfer money to cover the sewer, you know, a few years down the road, I expect, you know, development will come in and growth will happen. When the sewer fund becomes a positive force, you could pay back
Mhm.
to Fund 425. It's not like you have to give it and then it's gone forever. But,
It's kind of like giving our sewer a TIF.
yeah. But, if you go back down there, so, Jason's sewer budget, he had it having a deficit somewhere between 80 and 150,000. Well, that's why, it's because it's this transfer. And then you put the note that you took the transfer into account, but when I checked the math, it's not accounted for yet.
the transfers in.
Yeah, you said after transfers in, it was the negative and there was no transfer in yet.
Well, because I'll have to look at this again.
But your finding is correct.
Yeah,
It looks like that on its own, it probably won't.
Kane worked really hard on this,
Okay,
so. But yeah, this is, and that's like you'll see in the general fund, there's the transfer in, we lowered it down to 200.
Yep, I
100
saw
from
that.
Each, we had initially had it at like 280 something thousand, to split costs, but. That will eventually go up more over each year, as it starts to balance itself out to help offset the cost, but this year we just kind of made it an even 100,000 from water, 100,000 from sewer to help pay for payroll support. positions,
That's pretty common,
so.
practice for most cities.
But again, just because we're still working to try to, maintain a balance, that's where it's a lower number this year, and again, hopefully get it projected higher as the years go on. So,
Yeah, in fact, in 2023, I don't even think you had a sewer fund at that point. You just had a
No.
water fund.
we really didn't have much of anything last year either, nothing was set up or done, like it was just kind of, and we had the
did our
water.
assessments earlier, 1 year earlier before we
Yeah,
had the completion.
but we didn't have a
Yeah,
good working
23
budget,
was 2 years,
so.
small. And 23,000. The transfer in was 150 last year.
We had special assessments coming in, like 2023 was the original.
Yeah.
Plan.
We have 100 budgeted in the water expenses.
Oh, yeah. No, what I mean is your sewer fund, I thought what you were saying is with the fund 425 transfer.
Yeah.
Maybe you meant the payroll transfer.
Yeah, payroll transfer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the number that you're showing negative is right in line.
Yeah, which is good, cause that means we're getting our numbers right and estimates, so.
So, my hope is when the 24 audit is done, and then I can talk to staff about 25 actual activity. And then, I don't know if it can all be done in-house or if I have to get a hold of Joe. Do you guys still have a relationship with Joe?
Yeah.
Palin? Yeah. Okay, maybe work with him on, future connections and so forth. And then I can update this.
One other question, have you ever recently done a city debt service? How much debt the city can handle?
We do that quite a bit. The reason I laugh. So the statute limitation is that you can only have debt that's equal to 3% of your market value of the city. That's the statute. But here's the thing, don't write it down. Here's why. 99.9% of all the debt that you ever issue doesn't apply to that 3%. So all that sewer debt, water debt, road debt with assessments, TIF debt, if you ever did TIF bonds, tax abatement debt, if you ever did that, none of that applies to the 3%. So from a statute limitation, very, very little in your way, okay? You may have public hearings, notice requirements, protest petitions, things like that could come in your way, but not in terms of how much.
I come across an email back in 2021. I think that's when you did one for us. It said we were in great shape for what we had at that time,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so there's now, when you say, well, what can we afford, right? And I laugh at that because there's what credit agencies might determine what you can afford. So one thing is we look at your debt per capita. Take the total outstanding debt, and you're millions of dollars in debt now. We divide that by your population. And if that's over 5,000 debt per capita, it's considered elevated. Not the end of the world, but it's considered elevated. And then if you take all your debt and divide it by the market value of the city, we'd like that to be less than 10%. There's a whole number of ratios in that regard. So there's those kinds of ways of what. And then finally, how much debt can we afford? You tell me how much you're willing to increase your taxes, and I can tell you how much you can borrow. So,
Each other residents have.
yeah, so it's not for
Yeah,
me to say, hey, you can afford $100, more a month. Yeah, you don't live here. So that's why I always you tell me how much you're willing to raise costs on a typical house. I'll tell you how much you can borrow against that. That's the best way to answer that question. So, but now you got me curious. This one right here.
Why, how much you wanna raise it?
Where did I close that down? Oh, okay, let's go to the top here. So, okay, so we had basically, let's call it 11 million for the sewer. It wasn't quite that much, but just round numbers. And the water. Let's say you're $12 million in debt. and no zeros,
Yeah.
divided by what's population?
1,800.
I'm missing 1 0.
I heard you hit it all, but, oh,
Well, no, yeah, here we go, okay, and then what's population?
1,800.
1,800. So you're over the 5,000. That's not the end of the world, it just means you're in an elevated debt position and you might pay 10 basis points more on an interest rate someday if you issue debt than you otherwise would have. I mean, the city of Okabena, a little dink town, kind of, I think on the border of Iowa. And they were gonna be, say, $47,000 debt per capita. And they had to go to Kentucky to find a buyer for their bonds,
Or building or sewer
citywide utilities,
or.
you know. And they asked us to come in and help them get the financing, and we said, what?
Need a wheelbarrow.
Yeah. But city of Rushford has a policy where they say, we're willing to go over 5,000, but we're not willing to go over 6,000, so they don't issue debt until they drop that down enough and so forth, but why, you don't have anything planned, do you? You don't have anything planned, do you? Why are you asking?
I'm just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're good, we're gonna sail for a while, right?
Oh, yeah, we're in tall cotton.
Not tall, growing, growing kind.
I mean, in a year, it could be 1,950 people. 2 years could be 1,900.
But I'm not gonna expect to call next year saying we wanna build an $8 million fire hall. Right? I'm not gonna get that call. Or city hall, or ambulance building, you name it,
year and a half something?
Cause I do a lot of planning with cities and then we leave, and say, yep, that's the plan, and then they say, well, we got this multi-million-dollar thing that we didn't tell you about.
I think that's a good number, Mike, on that 5,000. On a target to look at and to keep in mind. I think that's very good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's an awesome number to at least have.
Yeah.
So we know where we're sitting and be aware of, yeah, that's. I think we need to have the 2024 or 24 audit done to get that taken care of. So we know when that's gonna be done, Jason?
Every day is a struggle with them.
Yeah,
Even today, I mean, we had them come in and ask for things that we've already given them, and Mel had to spend a couple hours working with them to explain what they're looking at. So we have the extension till the end of the month with the state. And so we're still pushing for them every day to get this done. I've been super happy with it, so,
the biggest problem was the turnover,
yeah.
city hall, that's what really. put you
And
behind.
that hampered a lot. I mean, there's a lot of institutional knowledge that went out and where everything was at and so. But we're pushing. So. Any other questions for Mike here?
Not until after we come back in after the 2024 and take a look at it. No, this was great information. I really appreciate that tonight. That was fantastic.
Less foggy.
Good.
Less foggy.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, it's a lot of basic information, and it's just jamming it all in your head.
As far as the budget, I mean, I think we've done a good job of presenting the city's wants and needs through, working with the committees and commissions and get groups of citizens to help push forward projects. As well as with you guys, council members, pushing forward like the streets projects, those kind of things. So where we're at with the budget is where I'm looking at for Wednesday's meeting. But it just comes down to, having the communication put out to the citizens and going, hey, these are the projects that we are working on. This is what we've got coming. This is why we're, having this funding come out and being able to communicate that with it.
And of course, this is the high-end number that we're looking at for this week anyway.
Yeah, but then
You can always make adjustments coming back down before we get the last one in December, so.
Correct. But just be aware that
That's not us.
the notices go out based on this first number.
Does that include our?
And then what goes in the paper too.
Yeah.
That's the small cities.
So also,
Yeah.
that's all the road.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Before I pack up though, I wanna make sure we're all good before I leave.
This is,
I think we're good.
CIP of 442, does that include the?
That's in the streets and roads budget is offset for
Is
the,
offset already
Yeah.
by that?
yep, so in streets and roads, you'll actually see the street maintenance, $50,000, 41, the SCA is there, small cities assistant.
Okay, so that's
And
just.
then-
already set.
Yeah, the remainder is. What was that? So,
Mike, I do have one more question.
Yep.
Small city assistance,
Mhm.
in 2024, there was a one-time legislative bill. The city was 107, for Orinoco was 107,000. And then there was another additional 75,000 into the year in December of 2024. So is that, those funds are still technically available, is that, we've used some of it for street maintenance, but I'm hoping we can use some of that funds.
If you haven't spent it.
$40,000 in there.
Yeah,
You
so
know, Jason and I have talked a couple times about it, and I just wanna make sure we're not,
assuming that got deposited into your general fund, or 100 fund. If that money went in there and wasn't spent, your general fund reserves will go up. And, you know, it's available for the next year. The only thing is when you do your budget, it's kind of problematic. This is kind of why I like a fund like Fund 425 off book. Because your general fund is your operational fund. You know, it's paying for the snow plowing and stuff like that, but maybe not the snow plow truck. That should come out of the 425 as a capital outlay. And the reason being is because you have department heads that are putting money in their budget or asking for things for you to save. So let's say they add $50,000 to their department budget, they don't spend it. The general fund, as a result, at the end of the year goes up $50,000. But the general fund in the fantasy world land of accounting, it's just a bucket of money with all sorts of departments. It doesn't tell you how much is streets, fire, whatever. Whereas if you do that transfer to Fund 425, then you know it's there for capital. And the credit rating agencies, they like to see your general fund reserves stay stable or maybe even increase a little bit every year. Because they want to know that you have money to operate. But if you're saving money for capital, your general fund goes way up and then you buy that $500,000 fire truck with cash. And then the next year, your general fund goes down like that. And then they do this. And they're gonna say, these boys don't know what they're doing. They're all over the place. Whereas if it's nice and smooth, and then you're transferring money to Fund 425, which is a capital fund, that's expected to go up and down. Save money, spend money, save money, spend money. So,
okay, well, that makes, I agree, that makes more sense where the small city assistance should go, I guess.
yeah, yep.
It's a little more, it takes us out of the, it's their money, it's money for, to be used at some time in the future or whatever, but it is there, that's why I just. wanna
Yeah,
make
I take it out of the general as part of your transfer and move to 425 if there's anything left.
Well, we don't know if it's even there right now, Ryland, do we?
Yeah, you can't make any decisions
It's
until.
there someplace.
If it just doesn't show up, then is what you're saying off of that. 'Cause
Well,
we're
the checks
fine.
were sent out to all the cities.
I think you're just saying, don't bank on it.
No, I was just
Whatever-
looking at what it
what
is,
you
and where
get,
it
you
shows
get.
up
Instead of
here,
saying
where
that
we're
you're-
missing up.
And one thing, Jason, you might offer to the auditors is that
Spent it in last year.
at the end of the year 24, everyone knows how much money you've had, because you have a checking statement, a savings statement, CD statements, whatnot. You have all these statements and you know how much your checks are outstanding. If they can't, with clarity, divide all that up across these funds, if they're delaying it because they're not quite sure, you might just have to tell them, guesstimate,
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
You know, just assign what you think is in the general fund. So as long as this number equals this number,
yeah,
just let them, hey, if you have to, just fudge it so that these match. And then we have our new starting position and hopefully this isn't a problem ever again.
yeah. hopefully not.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Very good.
Anything else?
All right, so what a bail.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. I guess we're on for Wednesday.
Time for
The rest?
Yeah.
No, Monday nights, if you go to the sisters.
What's this?
Go ahead, What, 7:31?
Close the Mondays.
No, the only places I've been in order